Well, hello, hello. Thank you for talking to me about the movie today. I'm Russ Milheim from the Direct.
Hey, thank you so much for having me.
Of course, of course. Well, congratulations about the film. It must have been a fun one to work on.
Yeah, fun is a good word for this particular film.
Working in horror, what about the genre what aspect of the genre is your favorite to utilize and play within?
Yeah, I mean, what drew me to this project was that I'd never really done horror before. My work was mainly in the drama world and then some comedy. But I grew up as a huge fan of horror, so I was really excited to jump at the bit to be able to work with Marcus and tell this story. And what I loved was like about this particular film is that it's horror, it's got gore and shock and all of these things, but it also uses humor to disarm people, and there's also heart as a through line. So I think something that makes a really great horror movie is a balance of all of those themes, and that was something that I was really interested in taking on.
What do you personally relate to when it comes to your character, Sarah? What do you personally relate with her the most?
It's a really good question, because Sarah and I are very different people, which I think is a good thing.
It,
Um,
it is a good thing. It is.
I think it's a good thing. But it really what it is we're in very different circumstances, and I think anyone put into certain circumstances can act in a number of different ways. But something that I do relate to is I think she throughout this film you're seeing her trying to find her footing in a friend group that is like already very well established and very known, and she's trying in the beginning she's sort of like this voice of reason and trying to understand who these people are, and she's very observant and trying to like pick out what really happened, and there's a lot of secrets that are being harbored by everyone involved. And so in that sense I can relate to her in that way, and there is, without saying the spoiler, there's certain elements to like her driving intention of this entire film that I do relate to. It's based out of love, but I think how she utilizes that is something that we differ on.
So there's a lot of twists and turns by the end of that film. How fun was it to play through all of those?
It was so much fun. It was really the twists were really the thing that made me want to do this project. There, I feel like I'm pretty good at being able to predict how a film is going to go, and where a story is going to go. And when I was originally reading this script, I was genuinely surprised, particularly in the third act, with my character, and that was just so exciting. And it was a really interesting role to take on, and I really wanted to tell a story and represent a character who has so much innocence and sort of quietness and naivete in the beginning. And then when all of this chaos ensues, you see a completely different side of her. But then you could go back and watch the film again and see how that innocence is just being misunderstood, and it means something else. And that
Not
was a really
really innocence.
nah, not really. She's got secrets. Yeah.
Can you break down kind of what exactly your relationship was with Colette? Were you guys really good friends? Was it more than that? Well, what led to those circumstances that, shot the movie off?
I think that the only person that Sarah ever really loved was Colette. And we wanted to make it subtle where, the audiences would be able to like plug in whatever they wanted to, but it was definitely when we were making it from the vantage point of like a real romantic love. And the thing that drove Sarah was that love, and also an immense amount of guilt for how that happened. So guilt and love is the thing that motivates Sarah, into the direction that she goes. But it was definitely rooted in love, and then since then she went off in different directions.
And then you found another friend, in Shaw, but somehow you were like, this isn't worth keeping. And so you betrayed her too. Was there ever, you think there was ever a world where you two had more of a future, or was Shaw pretty much doomed the moment you guys started talking?
I think this is a really good question, and I'm so curious what like audience members would want to like think about that. I think there are moments of authenticity there, where there is like a true care to a certain degree, but I think that at that point, what Sarah experienced with Colette before and killing her,
Yeah.
and uh, and bearing that weight, I think something really turned off in her head where she just wasn't able to see anything except for avenging Colette's death, and everything was being used as a way to facilitate that. So I think Shaw was, in the grand scheme of things, pretty doomed, but there are moments I think where Shaw really did help um, in ways that Sarah wasn't necessarily expecting, which threw her off.
Yeah. Now
All my friends are dead, so she was.
the the seven deadly sins killer is coming after you now. If he
Yeah,
were to put you into one of his traps, what would it look like? What sin is he going to attach to you?
this is a question for Marcus Dunstan, who would probably help in writing the next. Are you asking me as an actor or
Oh, just
as?
yeah, yeah. What do you think would
Oh
befall your character
I don't know.
hypothetically?
Hypothetically, I mean, I don't know. I don't know how much it was seen in this in the film, but there's the whole sequence where like each death has like their own little death trap that looks
Hmm.
really beautiful. Like Sloth has a little lazy boy chair and clouds, and Pride has a vanity, and Envy has all these leaves, and then you put all of them in there. Wrath is also there, and in Wrath, like what we had on set was this like um, cage with a bunch of axes and metal throwing things, and I don't know, maybe he would use that like something that I made and then use it against me in some kind of way.
When are you gonna get to work on that sequel tease, which is I had to assume real, When are you gonna what is it? Everyone I know is dead?
I don't know. I mean, I think it's in the hands of the audience, and see how much they like all my friends are dead, and
Yeah.
if they want a sequel, scream.
For you as an actress, how do you feel like your time on this movie helped you grow and improve your own craft?
I had improved in a number of ways. I mean, I think um, there was a lot to this character, and the whole filming process was rather intense, and it was such a great experience. But when you're making any films, time is a total resource. So we're working very long hours, day in and day out, and pretty much everything that we shot was really intense. Um, so I learned a lot about stamina and endurance and what I need to give myself as an actor to be able to physically show up and do everything, and then also mentally show up and be on my best game. And I think that was a really incredible experience. And there's certain things that I learned about taking on a character as dark as this, that really informed me about different people that I maybe didn't have an understanding of before taking on the role of Sarah.
Now, a quick unrelated question for you. When are we going to get a School of Rock revival?
That's an interesting question. Um, I don't foresee that happening given it's been a while. I think we ended in like 2017, 2018, something like that. But I adore that show, and I loved working with that cast and that group of people. I mean, it definitely felt like my high school experience because I was on that from 14 to almost 18. So that was like my coming of age experience was growing up on that set. So I have nothing but love for the people involved, but we'll see. I mean, I don't know. Maybe who knows? Maybe I'll get an email about it.
The
But
moment we end this call, you'll get an email like, "Oh well, just
no,
barely
there
missed
it
it."
is. Just missed it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Last question for you. Uh, with the whole film, all my friends are dead. What would you say was the hardest scene for you to pull off the way you wanted to pull it off?
Um, there were two scenes that were a bit difficult, but I think the monologue that my character has after she kills Mona, that turn and explaining who she is, and it's the first time that you see Sarah as herself, not as how she wants to be seen, which is a really powerful moment. And that monologue had changed quite a bit through the process. And I sat down with Marcus and it like kind of and Michaela actually is she's an incredible writer as well and creative, and she sat down with us too, and we sort of rewrote different things about that. And taking that on was definitely a challenge, but it was also probably my set.
Yeah.
Um, I had so much fun with that. And then also the scene with Michaela right before I kill her, with the gun, and she's explaining, everything. Because it's just so many turns, and you just see how manipulative Sarah can be in such a short amount of time. So bouncing between what is authentic for Sarah and what isn't authentic to Sarah in very short amounts of time was posed an interesting challenge too.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
thank you again for talking to me about the movie. I look forward to everyone getting to see it, and I'm sure I'll see you again for number two.
Yeah, thank you very
All right.
much.